going on, guys? Anybody who's tuning in right now? I'm going to have to work on getting my sound going right here. So do me a favor and let me know how my volume's doing here. When we went live for It's Just Bodybuilding earlier this week, I felt like my sound, you guys told me actually, my sound was a little bit too low. I've been messing with it ever since, trying to get it to sound right. Looks like things are, oh, maybe that's a little high. I saw a little bit of red there. I've got this little meter that goes while I'm talking, so let's see. Volume is good. All right. Yeah, I've got this little meter. It looks kind of like this. So I'm up there at the top end of the yellow, not going quite into the red. What's up, guys? I'm glad you guys could make it. This is pretty freaking cool. It's crazy that I can sit here at my house in Detroit and you guys are everywhere. By the way, I want to know where you guys are at. So do me a favor and comment. Let me know where you're listening from. I saw before we got started, someone mentioned, what was this one? Okay, yeah, I love this. He says, been waiting for another solo live with Scott. Just started a new job, running equipment, building, logging roads. Think big. Bodybuilding always gets me through work on the farm. Now it gets me through work at my new job. You guys just like take a minute and think about that. Like, I don't know where you're at right now, but I'm not on a logging road. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of crazy to me how that works. It looks like I have to adjust one other sound thing here. And I see some of you guys are commenting, so I want to get over to you too, see what everybody's saying. Where are you at? Also, too, do me a favor if you can hit the like button. You guys, that, believe it or not, does a ton for us. It helps me out. It helps other people to see the show. By the way, too, that fresh 067, it looks freaking incredible in that thumbnail picture he has. We've got Virginia here. What's up, Chris? We've got North Carolina. Nice. I've been thinking about both of the Carolinas. I've been thinking about maybe moving out there. Dusty makes that sound good. Tanya Miller is with us. Good to have you as always, Tanya. Hope you're doing good. Hope everything over Evil Genius is going well with Broderick. Traveling back from LA to Denver. Like, that's incredible to think. You know, put it this way. When I was 15, if you're to tell me, oh, you're going to do a podcast one day and you're going to be talking to a guy who's, Alexandria, you're going to be talking to a girl who's traveling from LA back to Denver, you know, on a podcast, I would have thought you're crazy. We got some UK in the house. Hell yeah. What's up, Carnivore Muscle? Good to have you here, brother. Hope that your diet's going good, man. I still want to understand more about that carnivore. We got some more. What's up, Danny Boy in England doing some cardio? This is freaking cool. Tanya Miller, like I said, I hope everything's going good over there at Evil Genius. Are you writing any new articles now? What's the latest research that you've got going on? What do we have? Oh, all the way up in Alaska. Nice. Yeah, UK just fed the dogs and about to kick back for the evening. I like the sounds of that, David. Man, I can't believe Alaska. That's incredible. 11 mile and I-75. Zionic. What's up, brother? He's literally like a few miles from me. Another Colorado here. We've got some Oregon. So Oregon is an interesting state. And I'll get this thing started in just a minute, guys, but I wanted to say hi to everybody. Oregon is an interesting state because if you go over to the West Coast, it like all the way to the coast. First of all, it gets cloudy really quick when you get to the coast. I don't know what's up with your weather, but then it gets nicer when you go to Portland weather-wise. Of course, though, Portland is like as West Coast as it can possibly get. But then if you go east into Oregon, it's like freaking cowboy land. So that state literally has a little bit of everything. Vancouver, BC. What's up, Kyle? Good to have you here, brother. South Wales. Heck yeah, man. Oklahoma. And we got some Toronto, Canada. And Florida. We had to have somebody from Florida, right? I don't know where this is, Nick. I'm trying to get you on here. There you go. I don't know where this is. Medellin? Los Angeles, California. What's up, Stefan? Greetings to Patreon, my friend. Thank you for your support. All right. All right. We got some Kentucky here. I love Kentucky. No, we didn't talk about that yet, Stephen. We're going to get into things shortly here. I just wanted to say hi to everybody. Shout out to North Dakota. What's up, Bobby? And we got some what's up from Las Vegas. Yeah, Vegas is a cool place. And yes, Stefan, Portland is crazy, bro. I agree with you 100% on that, man. Although it's kind of a cool city in a lot of ways. We talked about LaPrinzi's gym, which is super old school. In fact, man, if we have time later, I'll show you pictures of LaPrinzi's and the round-headed dumbbells and the LaPrinzi brothers who were all into fitness back in the 30s and stuff. It's pretty freaking crazy. I'm going to have to get things started up here, though. Oh, man, anytime you're welcome to New Hampshire to your private range. Now, that sounds like a nice time. I'd appreciate that. That sounds good out there. New Hampshire, truly a free state. All right. So like I said, I just wanted to say hi to everybody, but I'll get this thing started. We've got a bunch of stuff that I want to cover. So I have a list of questions. I'm going to blow through those questions as quick as I can. I want to take your listener questions. So you can start commenting with questions at this point. I'll keep my eye on them. What's up, Nags? And I will do my best to keep those tallied, and I'll get back to those questions. But first, before we get to this small list of questions I'm going to blow through, I had a topic that was brought to my attention from one of our Patreon listeners, and he asked if we could bring it up on a podcast, and I said, you know what? I think this would be a perfect topic for me. And he said, how do you come back and get back into your groove after a layoff? And it's, here's the thing is I kind of feel like I always look at you guys as already being plugged in. Like I always think like, oh, these guys, they already got it figured out. They're already living, breathing bodybuilding. They're listening to bodybuilding podcasts. They obviously love this stuff, right? I know I'm kind of giving you a lot of credit, right? Like I don't always think about the fact that we all get knocked off our square from time to time. Sometimes we really get knocked off our square. Now, I can tell you this, that as a kid, I started training real early, like 12, 13 years old, and I stayed with it consistently for like 3-4 years, and then I stopped, did all sorts of other stuff, and then I got back into it when I was 19, did it for 3 years, and then I stopped. But when I picked it back up, and I was close to 30, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to take this seriously, and I'm going to keep on freaking doing it no matter what. If I'm ever going to make any kind of progress and I'm going to grow muscle, if I'm ever going to be like the size of a competitive bodybuilder, I have to like not let it go. I have to take what I'm doing, make progress, and then build off that progress and build off that progress, etc. I can't ever lose muscle again. And I consistently did that from about 2006 until 2021. And then I got knocked off my square because I got really sick. And it literally changed everything. I won't go into all the details of that, but it took me a long freaking time to get back. I've told you guys all about the SLU that I'm running, and I do think that that's been a big factor, getting my mitochondria functioning better. Not only is it helping to kind of excite the mitochondria, it's potentially helping to build new mitochondria. So, I haven't come off it yet, but I'm going to be excited to see, well, what does happen. A little scared too. What does happen when I stop using it? Because I have gotten such a boost. It's helping me to get my momentum together. But so back to the question, it was, how do I get back into my groove after a layoff? And we do a date day, my wife and I, Victoria, every Friday, where I try to unplug. I put the podcast up, Blood, Sweat, and Gear, on Friday morning. I'm done with that by 11. We're out of the house, and I try to not do anything unless there's a contest prep competitor competing on Saturday. I try not to do anything for the rest of the day related to work. It's my one piece of time off. We went for a walk out at Mayberry State Park, and I told her about this question, and she said, you know what, she started giving me the answer as to what I've done. And I thought that was kind of cool, first of all, because it feels nice to be seen, you know what I mean? And she's watched me get back into it, but she gave me a list, and I'm going to share that list with you guys. She said, through observing me, these are the things that I've done to get myself plugged back in. So, and I made these little text things. So check this out, guys. I made this for you today. there's number one. Radical acceptance. I didn't spell check these, by the way. I just like whipped them out last minute. So I'm praying that I didn't make a mistake, but we're going to find out, right? Radical acceptance. So I used to be able to train a lot harder. I used to be able to do progressive overload. Hell, I used to be 240 pounds at my all-time best and my all-time strongest, and I was getting stronger by the day. That was 2021. That's not today. So I had to accept where I'm at and what I'm capable of doing. That was the number one thing, was seeing for myself, like, you know what, do what you're capable of. I can't expect to go in the gym and do the things that I did before. Now, your layoff might be shorter. You know, you might have had to change jobs. Maybe you went through a breakup. Maybe you got injured and you're coming back from that. You know, I kind of put a list together here of a bunch of stuff. So I had to be able to meet myself where I am today versus clinging on to what I used to be. You know, oh, I should be able to do this. You know what I mean? So that became a big thing. Oh, Connor, I got a super chat from you. Thank you, brother. I'm going to get back to you. And I do see the questions coming in, so I am going to cover these. So I'll try not to belabor this too much. But that was the number one thing, radical acceptance. You know, understanding I'm not where I was. I set, and I liked this one, hard targets and soft actions. My hard target initially was, I want to be in the best shape I can be for the Arnold Classic. No, I'm not competing there, but I am showing face, right? And I am seeing people that I know. I'm getting to hang out with Ron and Dusty. I set this up to say, okay, by this time, the Arnold Classic, it was the beginning of the year. It was like January 5th when I started. I said, I want to get into be the best shape that I can be by the time the Arnold is here. But I took soft actions. Once again, I went back to like, what am I capable of doing? So the number one thing that I said I was capable of doing was cardio. No matter what, I got my cardio going. Even if I didn't feel like training, even if I was just maybe feeling under the weather, I didn't have my energy up yet, I got momentum by saying, I can walk, right? I can at least freaking walk. My cardio started out at 20 minutes, 3 miles an hour at an incline of 3. Now I'm up to like a 4.5 incline, 3.6 miles an hour. And for me, if I go any faster, I would be running. So I'm really kind of pushing it. And I can do that for an hour now. It's increased so well. The SLU definitely made a difference with getting that momentum going. But I know I'm beyond that. It's not just the SLU. It's the fact that I'm also building my cardio in the process. Now, that helped me out a lot to be able to get activity in. Even if I couldn't train, I could do cardio. And then with training, back to the radical acceptance, I'm not where I was. So for me to go in and do the things I might suggest to somebody who's advanced, it's just not for me. I went back to a 1 body part per day split, and that means chest. I might do 9 sets for chest. And believe it or not, let me give a shout out to push-ups. How many of you guys, I'm going to ask you right now, how many of you guys in the stream still do push-ups? Tell me, I want to know, because I'm telling you, push-ups are, for me at least, they are super, super underrated. I started doing push-ups and I found like my core isn't as strong as it used to be. So initially I'm like vibrating as I do a push-up. I'm like, oh my God, this is embarrassing. You know, thankfully I was doing it in my own basement gym. Right. And now I'm back to doing good push-ups. So I end my workout, my chest day, with push-ups. Is that the most intense, hardcore lift there ever was? No, but it fits perfectly for where I'm at. I'll do 3 to 4 sets of an incline bench or a flat bench. I'll do 3 to 4 sets of a machine bench. And then I do 3 sets of push-ups, as many as I can get 3 times. It's pretty cool. You guys do push-ups? Okay, Steve says he does a few push-ups. Okay, good. We got some people doing push-ups. Cornelius Parkin, what's up, brother? Good to have you here, man. If Cornelius Parkin is doing push-ups, you guys can do push-ups. All right, let me continue to move on here. What else do I have? Okay, next one is food prep. So I just started prepping my food again, and I started that out the gate. And I said to myself, I eventually want to be able to eat 5 to 6 meals a day. I always eat my meal one consistently. Let's get into chicken meals. It's like, yeah, I don't really want to eat this chicken. It's not good. I figured out a way that I enjoy making it, and since then I've built the diet out. But it all started with prepping my freaking food. If I don't have the food prepped, I can't stay on track. So it is critically important. By the way, guys, I should tell you, I'm down like 27. It was 191 now this morning. I started at 217. So I'm down a good amount. And I did start a little gear. So I'm going to tell you about that. But it all goes back to the food prep. Had I not continued to prep my food, day after day, I would not be able to stay with this. Things would have ultimately gone to chaos within the first week. So food prep, getting back into food prep was a big thing. Obviously, right, it's a no-brainer if you're already in it, but if you've been out of it for a little while, I'm just telling you, these are real basic steps, but these are the things that made a difference. The radical acceptance, and then setting hard targets, but using soft goals. What can I do? Like I said, maybe it's just cardio today. Maybe it's push-ups, stuff like that. Do the best that I can do, and it's only going to push me further to my goal. And ultimately, I was really happy with how things turned out. And now I have to set another goal, which I think is going to be the Olympia. I want to be like good shape for I have time for that, right? Check-ins. So I don't care if you're working with a coach or not. Let me move this a little bit. Whoops, shrunk it down a little bit. There we go. I don't care if you're working with a coach or not. It's important that you do check-ins with yourself. Now, here's what I ended up doing. I didn't do check-ins at first. I just stepped on the scale. That was all I was comfortable with doing. I'm like, I don't want to do pictures yet. Move about 2 weeks forward, and I said, you know what? I'm going to kick myself if I don't at least take a starting set of pictures. And then from there, I've taken pictures every Friday. So no matter how things are going, I do pictures every Friday now. And I can evaluate my progress, and I can be critical, on am I doing good enough? And the reality is I'm hard on myself. So I feel like I should be doing better than I am. And then when I see the pictures, it gives me that reassurance that like, oh, wow, this is a pretty good change. And by the way, guys, I'm not at the point yet where I feel comfortable sharing those pictures. But when I get there, believe me, I will be excited to share them with you. On the note of sharing stuff, the next one I have, and I've only got a couple more of these guys, is, oh man, where did it go? Where did it go? Tell me it's an important one here. I might not have, nope, I didn't. Oh, yep, I sure did. This is an important one. I shared my goals. I told you guys, hey guys, I'm working on getting in better shape. I told Ron and Dusty and everybody else. I told my wife, this is my goal. This is what I'm trying to do. There's a fine line in there, because if you say like, hey guys, I'm going to run a marathon, you can get like false praise from it that gives you the same satisfaction as if you did run a marathon. Do you know what I'm talking about? All of a sudden you guys start telling me like, oh, Scott, that's so great of you to get healthy and run a marathon. You're such a cool person for getting in shape like that. And I'm all like, oh yeah, I really am. And I feel really good because you told me that. You got to be careful with sharing your goals. You don't want to slip into that. You know what I mean? So for me, sharing my goals, it's kind of accountability. I put it out there to you guys and I said, hey, I'm starting to get in shape. And I told you guys because I needed your support to kind of keep me in that groove. Now that I said it, I have to do it. So I definitely think it's important. Share your goals with people, but be careful it doesn't cross that line. You know what I mean? Arnold Schwarzenegger talked about sharing his goals. He said, if you're going to compete, once you've committed to the contest, tell people this is what I'm going to do. All right, cool. I'm glad you guys are tracking along with me here. I'll make this really quick. Couple quick more. And like I said, I had fun writing these out briefly before the show. So next one, a cheat meal. I worked in a cheat meal, and my cheat meal started out small. I don't want my cheat meal to take me out of this. I don't want it to slow me down, but it is kind of like a reward. I told you guys we do our date day every Friday, and at some point on Friday, I'm eating something that I enjoy. My first 2 or 3 cheat meals was a club sandwich. I stopped eating bread. I know bread kind of bloats me. It doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't make me look good. I added in a cheat meal with a club sandwich, 550 calories. It's got cheese in it. It's delicious because I'm not eating cheese, mayo, like the fats. And it was good, different textures, crunchy toasted bread. But it's not like I woke up the next day and I was 10 pounds heavier. I'm not doing a load meal. I'm just eating something once a week that I can recover from easily. And if anything, I'm generally going to be down a little bit after that. Also, too, by the way, when you have your cheat meals, it's super important that you drink plenty of water on those days because you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of those nutrients and really freaking driving them into the muscle. A lot of times people will kind of cut short on water. They might eat a little bit less. Make sure you at least hammer that water leading into that cheat meal. That's going to help you to push it through digestively. It's going to help to make sure that whatever carbs you're eating, you really take advantage of them. And then I think I had one more here. Yes, last but not least, and then I'll get to these other questions here, and then we'll take all the stream questions. Gratitude. And I was talking to Victoria about it this morning. She said, there's a difference between saying you're grateful for something and actually being grateful. Listen, it's hard to be grateful for doing 20 minutes of cardio and some push-ups when you used to be a competitive bodybuilder. Like flat out, I'm being truthful with you. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to get older and not have the same abilities that you did 10 years ago, in feeling that like, oh yeah, it's catching up, isn't it? Age is actually a factor here. But I feel so good and I couldn't be in a better place. I am so grateful for being able to do everything that I'm doing right now. So if you're not finding gratitude, like look for it. And one more quick note on that. I've had competitors that get into a funk during their prep because when we are on low calories, it can affect our moods. I've challenged them to write out a gratitude list and grab a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen, write it down. It makes a difference to truly write it and write down 5 things about whatever topic you're not feeling grateful for. Write down 5 pieces of gratitude. If you're in a contest prep, it's easy. The gratitude for having the finances to do a contest prep, to have the direction of a coach, to have the support of your loved ones. There's a lot of things. You can even go to having the food to eat 5 times, 6 times a day when there are people in the world that don't have that. There's a lot of things we can find gratitude in. And if you really hunt for that stuff and you put a list of 5 together, it's hard to have a bad attitude about that topic anymore. So anyway, all right, let's see. What is a protocol for HCG? Okay, we can get to that. Let me click on that one. And Waldo, I am happy to share I'm using my hands in air quotes, wisdom. I'm grateful to have you guys here hanging with me. So that's my spiel. That's my talk on getting back on track after a layoff, man. It's not been easy. It's what I've wanted to do since the minute I freaking fell off, but it's taken me a long time. And the cool thing is that no matter how long we've done this sport, there is always more to learn, and I'm still learning every day. So I'm grateful for that. So real quick, let me just run through here, and I might not be able to talk and read at the same time, but I need to start putting check marks next to, and I'm going to read the questions as I go, or the comments as I go. Steph, I'm literally prepping my next 2 chicken meals right now. Bob, what are Tyson push-ups? I don't know what they are. Bob said Tyson push-ups rock. He'll have to tell us. What are you getting your website up and running? Oh, I got to talk to our guy. We have a web guy that I need to talk to. I spoke to him before the Arnold, and I need to get back with him now because he says that things are ready to go. I'll be really excited to get that set up. Let's see. I'm not up for weighted push-ups yet. Prefer dips over push-ups. I think it's great for the trunk. I don't do chest without. Yeah, so for me, a lot of guys are talking about doing vacuum training, and I'm finding that for some people, doing planks are more effective for bringing that stomach in and flattening out the transverse abdominals than vacuums. I've worked with some guys that have had distension that they tried vacuums, they did them long term, and we're not seeing the incredible difference we wanted. We went to planks and we saw a difference. And I discovered getting into push-ups because I was doing planks. And I thought to myself, well, what if I just kind of incorporate pushing up and down while keeping my body as stiff as possible in a plank-like position? So I'm kind of doing a plank / push-up. I'm looking at them as both the same. So for my situation, it's helping because I want to try to, I feel like I've done a lot of belly breathing and my stomach's hung out, you know? So I'm trying to retrain that. Don't get old. That's the main answer here. All right. What else do we have here? I'm just kind of putting check marks next to everything. That is questions. Connor did push-ups 11 years ago. Yeah, man, it's a great place to get started. Push-ups, every workout, finish with burnouts. Heck yeah. Had renal cancer, lost a kidney, was out of training for 6 months. His scars were healing, and I just did light cardio. Definitely just got to accept your new limits and try to rebuild. Danny, damn, that is the truth, man. Cornelius is at Costco right now. Oh, okay. Let's start with Connor here because Connor gave us a super chat, dude. Thank you very much, man. Advice for getting shredded glutes. All right. When calories are already low and cardio is high, ancillaries daily too. Side glutes are peeled, but have a layer of fat on the back. This is a great topic, man, and it really comes down to the individual. I don't think you're going to like my answer because it's not going to give you a short-term solution. Number one is developing more glute tissue. The more glute tissue you have, the faster your glutes will show through when you get lean. If you look at your composition, the leaner you get, the biggest, best body parts. Like you see a guy who has those incredible wheels, incredible quads. As he gets leaner, those quads continue to get more and more peeled. You know what I'm saying? So that's the number one thing. So you can apply that for your next off season. I have a client actually who really struggled with this, Nick Vicolo, and I was going to shout him out today. I brought a picture of his. Now, he had, believe it or not, already developed his glutes here. This is Nick. So this is Nick in 2023. That's his on the left. That's November 2023 off season. We were planning to then compete in July of 2024. Okay. So from here, we're thinking about tightening up a little bit. We got him down in shape for his show in July. He won his classic pro cards in Masters, and I said pro cards because he won two of them that day. Turned out really good. And then now the picture on the right is his current picture. So that's going into the contest prep basically on the left, and then this is from July till now. We got back into off season about November, and then from there now we've been growing, and that's him on the right. Now he's had a lot of issues with getting his glutes in. We got him absolutely peeled. The glutes were still not crispy. Like you could see them there, but everything else was. The problem is that if you don't have enough tissue, you're going to have to possibly sacrifice other aspects of your physique. If you're in contest prep right now, Connor, which I assume you might be, thanks, by the way. He says he looks good. Appreciate it, man. Are you in contest prep right now? That's my question to you. Part of it is trying to get them as good as they can be. If they're not absolutely peeled this year, it doesn't mean that your physique isn't good. Okay. Like, if you're doing classic, for instance, which you look like you're a classic guy from your thumbnail, You can get shorts that are cut a little bit lower. You know what I'm saying? You still can show the shape of your glute. You can still show the bottom part of your glute, but cover them up enough so that they can't see whether they're peeled or not. And you can still do very well in that circumstance. The other option is burning the entire house down to get those glutes to come in. And I'm not saying that's true for you. You know, maybe it's just a fact of getting leaner. Maybe you just need to get leaner. But if everything else is already peeled and the glutes are the last thing to come in, you're playing a game where now you're going to start sacrificing everything else to get that one body part to look better. And believe me, that's a game you've got to play. Like, as a coach, I'm playing that game with every competitor I have if the glutes aren't in. But the ultimate goal is to find the balance that works best for you. Oh, he's open bodybuilding, so you can't hide those glutes, and you're 7 weeks out. So that was an old photo, he says. Yeah, so you can't hide your glutes, really. But as long as, you know, if you don't get them completely peeled this time, you know, that's one thing. If I saw your pictures, man, listen, I'll tell you what, I'm going to be doing the stream for a little while. Send me an email, shoot me a back shot. If you don't mind, I'll put it up on the screen, mcnallydiets@gmail.com. Let's see what your condition looks like right now, and I'll let you know where you're at. Send me a back and front shot, please. Rear double and front double if you've got them, but any front and back shot would be good. Could be a front and rear relaxed. Let's open those up and take a look. That's mcnallydiets@gmail.com. And I'll check that in about 5 minutes or so. If you want to do it. Yeah. He says hip thrusts help currently. You know, 7 weeks out, you can only do so much with training to get them to show. Like, you're not going to do a stepper. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to do particular, it's just a matter of getting leaner. But show me where you're at. I'll tell you, you know, what I think, man. Do you need to, sometimes it is just a matter of dieting harder. You know, they are going to be the last thing to come in. And sometimes you do have to sacrifice everything else at 7 weeks out to get everything peeled. But then you take your time to fill back out at the end. You know, there's always that too. Excuse me. All right. Let me see what else we have here, though. And I'll come back to that. What's a relatively good progression in using SLU-PP-332? How long until increasing the dosage, and how much to increase? Thank you for everything. So, a nice Canadian flag there in your avatar, by the way, Al. So I'll just tell you what I've done. I started at 400. I thought 400 was great. After a period of time, I felt like I got used to 400, maybe 3-4 weeks in. And then I went to 500. And I definitely feel like a little bit of a bump from that. Now, do we need to progress with it? I don't know, man. I almost feel like I could just continue doing what I'm doing with 500, ride that out, then take a break from it, bring it back in later. That's kind of where I'm at with it right now. I do feel like, and I talked about this on the last live stream, MOT-C, I think is pretty beneficial too for the same type of cognitive boost that I've gotten from SLU. I've used it occasionally. Now, I find that if I take it every third day or so, even just 1 milligram, I get a good boost from it. So I've been saving that as more of an occasional boost. You know, you could consider, say, swapping out the SLU down the road, taking a break from it after you feel like a given dose has run in its course. I know people are dosing it higher. At the end of the day, I kind of feel like it still is a research thing. We're not 100% sure on sides. I'm going to try to still get the most out of the least. You know what I'm saying? All right. Let me see what else we have here. I'm going to scroll up to the top and start looking for, what's this one here from John? This is all the way back up at the top. Have you ever had injectables cause stomach issues similar to oral AAS? Any suggested remedies, John? Dang, man. Not the type of issues that I've gotten with oral. Say Anadrol, for instance, tends to wipe out somebody's appetite. I haven't seen that. I would consider like what's going on here? You know, maybe something like Tren. I could see that doing it. But if you're talking like test an EQ or test and DECA cycle, I am not sure, man. It's not common for just a standard injectable cycle to cause a side effect like that. But I would want to look at my labs, see what my liver looked like, and also, look at your foods. Could it be something nutritionally that you're consuming? I think that could be part of it too. Let's see what else we had here, John. Thank you for that. So, hey, Tony's channel. We just talked about GLP-1s and HGH while using insulin. That was a main topic over at Blood, Sweat, and Gear. I know we chatted, so you probably posted this before you saw that, but hope you enjoyed that episode because we did go into detail on that one. And I didn't really have a ton more to add to it. Never done a cycle. Wanted to use 300 tests, 100 NPP per week. Heard that nandrolone gives gyno easily. Any opinions or thoughts? Sunshine Man. So, here'd be my thought, brother. Before you figure out what test and nandrolone do, I would just figure out what test does, brother. Keep it simple. If you were to get side effects, what are you getting side effects from? Is it from the test? Is it from the estrogen from that? Is it from the NPP? I would just stick with test. It's our body already produces it. And save the NPP for down the road. Plus, I guarantee you, man, if you're running 300 to 500 tests for your cycle and you focus on making sure you control estrogen, you're going to do fantastic with it on its own. And now you've got an option of doing something different down the road. So I wouldn't worry about it. I would just start with the test only. And believe me, man, I think you'll do really well with it. And then remember too, that a big part of your first cycle isn't just the gains you make, but it's how do you recover from it. Nandrolone tends to be more suppressive than other compounds. Maybe not NPP as much as DECA, but the long-acting version. But I would still, just to kind of get your feet wet, I would start with test only. And remember, a lot of times we look at like steroid profiles and we say, oh, this one does this thing and this thing does this. I want this and I want this. And I'd like to have this conditioning too. So I'm going to add these in because these are the things I want. No, they all are going to help you gain muscle. And if you're dieting, they're all going to help you retain muscle and stay lean in the process. It really comes down to what you're doing with your nutrition. So they're more similar than they are different. I would just keep it as simple as possible and, focus on having a really good experience before you begin complicating it. I hope that helps, man. All right. What else do we have here? We're off to a good start, guys. I'm having fun with this. Ooh, should I go over and see if I got an email? I'm going to check. Check really quick here. See if Connor sent us an email yet. And if he didn't, if he doesn't want to post his pictures, I can respect that too. I got pictures, guys. I got pictures. All right. Connor, we're going to post these up. Got a good physique, man. Hold on, guys. Got to do a little screen cap here. Here's rear shot. Boom. Looks good, man. And what else do you got? So I've got 3 rear shots here. Got a freaking small waist, man. I don't know if there's much difference here. Did you send me any front pictures? I don't see any front pictures. Let's see here. I got 3 rear pictures. I think they're all about the same. I'm going to throw one more up, though, to see if there's any difference. All right. Here's the other one. There we go. There we go. Okay. So maybe this is a little bit leaner over here on the right, possibly. Or you're posing a little bit differently. Where's your feet at here? Okay. I like your physique, man. You got a really cool shape. Really tiny waist. You don't look like you have an issue with small glutes. That's for sure, man. Oh, I'm seeing I hit a spot shaving here. Huh. All right. I honestly, man, if you've got 7 weeks, I think you need to just keep dieting. I think that's really what it comes down to. I'm sure you're with us now. Let's see. So there you are. He says, post it. Okay. Oh, I see. So that's your progression over the last 3 weeks. I gotcha. Let me see here. I'm going to go back to that first one. So you are getting leaner. I'm going to tell you what it is, man. It's just a matter of continuing to progress from here, brother. Yeah, I agree. What does Cornelius have to say? Cornelius is somebody I really respect. He says, do more hip mobility work. Trust me, your glutes will look insane once you get them fully open. Okay. I'd be up for that. Man, I would tell you, though, you have a little bit of room. Like the glutes are going to be that last thing to come in. You can be sharper, and you have the time, man. With 7 weeks left, ultimately, I would personally, and I don't want to, listen, don't just like take this as advice and run with it. Do what you think is best for you. But if I were coaching you and we had room to push, I would definitely try to push harder. I would push to get you more depleted, and I would only push you as far as I knew I'd be able to bring you back from, though. If you push too far, the way I've always looked at it is here in Michigan, this is an analogy. Here in Michigan, we can wash our cars. We used to, when I was a kid, we'd wash our car in the driveway or in the front yard. And in the summertime, that's fine. But in the winter, it was too cold. So you don't wash your car. You take your bucket, your sponge, you put it in the garage, and then you pull it back out in spring. Well, when you pull that sponge out in spring, it's all shriveled up, right? And deflated. And you go to stick it in water to go wash your car again in spring, and guess what? It just bounces right back out of oh crap, I messed myself up here. Give me just a minute. There we go. I hit my keyboard. It just bounces right back out of the water. It doesn't immediately take the carbs back up. You know what I'm saying? View my front and side shots. You sent some front and side shots? All right, let me check. I'll tell you though. So here's my thought though, is that I'll pull those up in a minute. If you sorry, lost my train of thought. If you have enough time, you will reabsorb, the water back into the sponge. And I've seen muscle kind of react similarly, that if you deplete for too long and too hard, the muscle gets depleted. It's hard to get it to fill back out. And then finally, like 2 weeks after the show, I see it happen with quads a lot from doing a lot of cardio. It happened to me. I wonder, like, well, my quads, I lost muscle, going into that contest because my legs were smaller. But then like 3 or 4 weeks later, my legs were back. And that's when I started realizing that, so it's maybe harder to lose muscle than I thought, but it can be possible to deplete that muscle. So I generally try to push harder at this point, the 7 weeks out point. And then from there, I'll pull back out and do whatever it takes to fill back out and reduce. All right. So you got your email sent here. All right. Let's see these front shots, brother. So 7 weeks out. Connor still has some time. Yeah, this looks good. Great quads, man. And just good overall shape. Really nice small waist. Oh, you guys got to see this side shot. Wait till you see the side leg. Look at this. Look at this. Look at that side leg. That's pretty freaking good, man. That's a beautiful shot on him. Let's see. We got room for a couple more here. Got a couple side tries. What do you guys want to see? Side try? Or we got an ab and thigh here too. Let's pull the ab and thigh up because that's more different than similar. All right. Here's that ab and thigh. Okay, so remember, guys, this is 7 weeks out. We don't need to look stage ready at 7 weeks out from a show. You know what I'm saying? We only need to look a certain way on a given day. And Connor, what are you weighing here? Where are you at right now weight-wise? And how tall are you? What class are you going to be in? I would say, let's see. Yeah, I love seeing the support from you guys, by the way, in the stream. Thank you for being so cool. I would say that I would push harder, man. You know, if you're on zero carbs, there's only so much you can do, but you've got enough room, body fat wise. You can get more. I know you can get more out of it. I'm not sure where, because I'm not running your diet. I don't see your diet, right? So that would be for you to figure out. Looking at the comments here. You guys are freaking awesome, man. They came out of the womb with those hamstrings. Doing hamstring curls. Yeah. Okay. 6 foot, 247. So I bet you need a lot of food to be you if you're 6 foot tall and 247. Yeah. Yeah, I just keep reiterating myself, man. But that would be my thought would be, to try to continue pushing further, that you can get there, and you're really close now. You're really close. I think that it's just a matter of getting a little bit more crispy. You still look like you've got some room that you can. And here's the thing, man. Okay, you were 238 last week. And 238 last week, but you said 247, so I'm not sure what that means. But don't even worry about what the scale says. Just go for what your best look is, and I think you're going to get there, man. You've got the time, and just remember, be able to pull yourself back out of it. I wish I could say more specifics. If I were, part of it is, I also don't want to hurt you. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what you're doing with your diet. I don't know how low the carbs have already been. I think you said food was already pretty low. But if you had the room, experiment. See if you can get. And part of it too, sometimes it's, bodybuilding is a game of getting depleted and then filling back out, right? And sometimes it's a matter of getting depleted and then not filling back out yet, living in that a little bit longer before you fill back out. And, embracing the suck some more. So, there's that too. And I don't know what you're doing with like Clen or T3 and those things. Sometimes fat burners are not going to make you, you know what I mean? But I usually try to keep those things on the lower end so that when the time comes, if we need to, we might speed them up a little bit faster. You know what I'm saying? If you say we're running 25 T3 through this whole thing, then, maybe going to, 38 for a short time isn't going to be, it's only going to help speed things up that much more if you were already getting benefit from 25. But, it's a balance, man. So I listen, do me a favor, keep me posted, keep us posted. I would love to share your progress, man. And also too, what's your social media? Why don't you please post your Instagram so that me and everybody else can follow along with what you're doing. And I'm going to scroll up here to find some other questions. And I also had a few that I needed to make sure I hit for everybody, because I did get a handful of questions. So I'll knock through a few of those. So, I don't have a ton of experience with Retatrutide. I'm not going to claim to be an expert. I know that as a YouTuber, I'm supposed to have done some research for the last 30 minutes and then quoted all that stuff and made it sound like they were my own words. It's not me. But I had done a lot of research about it, which I talked about on one of the previous episodes of the AMA. And what I can tell you, the question I had gotten was Retatrutide for a female. I don't see that we would have any kind of significant differences for a female with Retatrutide than we would with a male. What I'm finding is that low-dose Retatrutide seems to be beneficial. I started with 500 micrograms twice a week. I went up to 1 milligram twice a week. I actually, after the Arnold, I stopped. I took a shot right before the Arnold, and then I didn't take another shot for about 10 to 14 days. I took a break from it. And what I decided I wanted to do was, yeah, you got it, Connor. And like I said, man, if you want to share your social media, dude, I'd be happy to throw it up here, man, so everybody else can follow along with what you're doing, brother. Of course, no obligation to that. So I'll tell you what, though, I just, for myself, I want to see, for myself, find out what like the least amount that I'm going to be able to get a benefit from. I found that dosing it that way, I got up to 1 milligram, and I found like, hey, this is good. Cost to benefit. I'm definitely experiencing the fat loss that I want to see. I definitely am noticing some less food focus, a little bit more appetite control. Could I push that a little bit further? Yeah, I definitely could. The research shows there's a lot of room. They're dosing it up to like 12 milligrams. So I'm still very low, but that would be more my thought. Try to, save your money too. That'd be one thing I'd consider. So what else did we have here? So designing a carb cycle. I think that's a great topic. And I was asked, do I use carb cycles with my clients? I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning, guys. So that ship has sailed. I guess I'll just say it. Scott McNally, coach for the past decade now, full-time. And I've coached for about 15 years. And that doesn't make me an expert by any means, but I have had the opportunity to see a lot of people transform their physiques over the years. And I do use a carb cycle approach of some kind with basically everybody. I found that the body likes homeostasis. It wants to stay where it's at. But if a carb cycle might be simply reducing carbs on non-training days. That's simply, now we've got a carb cycle. Let's say you train a lot of guys train and girls train 5 days a week. Maybe we just reduce carbs by even 50%, depending on, what's going on. And that would be the beginning of a carb cycle, or adding in an off-plan meal. If you keep it consistent, we know how many calories you're getting. That too is now a carb cycle, where now you're getting more carbs on that particular day. What's up, Tony? All right, I'll get to your question shortly, man. So what would I say else about a carb cycle there? I used to set them up in just kind of like a very arbitrary 2 days low, 1 day high, 2 days low, 1 day high, where maybe we would reduce the carbs by 40% on the low days, and then we'd have the one high day. But I found, though, that there is something to be said about nutrient timing. And if you're going to have a harder workout, I'd love to keep that harder workout in on, a training day. I think that would be beneficial. So that would be the first place I would start with a carb cycle, would be reduce the carbs on non-training days. You can play with that too. I mean, I've seen some people do really well carb cycling like that with growing in the off season, where we can really drive food up on training days, but then also offset it by have them eating a little bit less on those non-training days, and giving them a little bit of a break, helping them with their insulin sensitivity so they don't get overly fat. All right, Tony, what do we got here from a super chat? Thank you very much, by the way. I appreciate you, brother. He says, all right, what are your thoughts on using insulin R, like I think he means like the Novolin R from Walmart, with HGH? It's super cheap and easily obtainable over the counter. Yeah. So that's what a lot of people use, is just the simple Novolin R. Now, you do have to remember that it does have, the R stands for regular. So it's not a fast acting insulin, but it's not slow either. And if you use it intramuscular, it acts more like a Humalog does. So that would be an option. And that was something I learned from Scott Stevenson some years back. So you could keep that in mind. And you just have to be careful with your dosing, man. A lot of people, we got UC Suma in here. What's up, UC Suma? UC Suma's on it. He says, I've been using it for 4+ years. Same as Cornelius. I am. Yep, you guys are on the same page. You got to match insulin dose to carbs, not vice versa. Now, that's what he means by that, Tony, is back in the day, we used to say, all right, so if our ratio is 1 unit of insulin to 10 grams of carbs, then I want to take 10 units. That's my dose, Then I need to eat 100 grams of carbs. No, we found out we would get fat doing that, especially for guys that used more and more. But yeah, the other way around, let's say that you're using 45 grams of carbs going into your workout and you want to use insulin before that workout. Well, you could easily get away with 3 units of insulin, maybe 4 units of insulin, and then maybe have an intra-workout shake with that, keep you covered. You'd be completely set to go. Not a problem. That said, I do want to point this out for anybody out there that is considering using insulin. Always have some type of a backup plan. Always have a carb on hand in case you do go hypoglycemic. I don't care how well you have things planned. If you use insulin, there is going to come a time that you go hypo. So always be prepared for that. Also, you don't want to take insulin too close to bed, or you don't want to plan on taking naps. There's a real good chance that if you started going hypo, your body would wake you up. Let's not mess with that. Let's not risk it. You know what I mean? So just as a rule of thumb, if you do use insulin, don't take a nap during its active life, and always have additional carbs on hand. If you do go hypo and you had dosed your insulin properly, it's probably not going to be like a crazy hypo. We have to remember too that what ends up happening is the signal goes off in our brain to eat carbs when we go hypo, and it feels like a panic. It feels like your house is burning down kind of panic. Don't freak out, okay? Stay calm. It's really important that you recognize, okay, I'm starting to go hypoglycemic. That doesn't mean that I have to clean out the entire pantry and eat everything in the freezer. Like I just need to get some carbs in me. Generally, like as little as 10 carbs might get you right. So something fast acting would be good. All right. Wow, we got another super chat. You guys are freaking awesome. Thank you very much. I got to take you next then, Blue Collar Bodybuilding. I love your name too, dude. Blue Collar Bodybuilding. There used to be a podcast called Blue Collar Bodybuilding. All right, let's see. Super chat from Blue Collar Bodybuilding. Hey, Scott, appreciate all you do for the community. No questions, just wanted to throw up some support to contribute to the conversation. Carb cycling has helped me mentally. Low days are a nice break in a grow. Yeah, that's a great point, man. Do you guys remember that conversation we had with Ron Partlow? I've brought it back up a few times. He told me that he had, when he was working with Chad Nichols, he said Chad had him eating the most food he had ever eaten in his life. That's when he got over 300 pounds. And he did the opposite. Chad would actually have his highest carb days on his rest days, because he said that like Ron couldn't eat all that food and train because it was just so much food. And I think he had these 2 like really big shakes. So his rest day was like the normal food day, plus it was like these 2 huge shakes on top of that. I find that incredible. Thank you, man. I appreciate your support, brother. And I appreciate your and everybody's positivity here. You guys are freaking awesome. All right. I'm going to find these questions. I gotta stroll up some more here. Give me just a minute, guys. All right. Give me just a minute. All right. And, we were asked about topical finasteride. So real quick, real simple. I just get it from my doctor, and I just get the pills. I get the 5 milligram pills, and I dissolve them into minoxidil. I've been using that since like 2019. My hair isn't any thicker now, but it's also not really any thinner either. So, it is what it is. There are potential drawbacks to using finasteride orally. Some people do just fine with it, but just keep in mind that it does go systemic. And so finasteride syndrome, any issues that we could be getting from it, you would be dealing with it when you take that orally. I do think there is an element of circulation if you take too much topically, because I may have done that for a little while. With these 5 milligram tablets, I had plenty, right? So I started trying to push that dose up. And I started noticing that I started getting libido issues. And I'm like, this is weird. And I brought the dose back down topically. and it went away. So I do think that I started getting, if you put enough of it on your skin, eventually some of it's going to go systemic. So I do think there is that. But yeah, basically just 1 milligram a day, topical, with 5 milligrams of minoxidil twice a day. So the finasteride is 1 milligram once a day, and then the minoxidil is 5 milligrams twice a day. And you can just take it's like a pegylated liquid. You can just dissolve those tablets right in that. I like the 5 milligram tablets because there's less buffer to them. So there's not a lot of extra powder that it takes to dissolve, into the vial or into the bottle. All right, scrolling some more. James asks, take Clen and Yohimbine together or split them up? I don't know. You guys tell me. What do you do? I mean, I can tell you what I suggest, but you guys tell me because I'm curious to hear what your take is on it. Generally, I will take them together. And we also had a message here from Stefan. He said, take alpha Yohimbine instead, which is an option. Rolfstein, I can't ever say that right. AKA alpha Yohimbine. If you don't deal with Yohimbine well, the alpha Yohimbine may process better for you. I haven't personally seen a big difference with it. It has something to do with your P450 pathway. You may not break Yohimbine down if you get like crappy feelings that don't go away from it. For me personally, if I take Yohimbine, I feel kind of like sick and flu-like, and it'll last for the entire day. It's my body doesn't process and break it down, so that just sits there, and I think the next dose sits on top of it, and I progressively feel worse. So I don't personally take it. Scott Stevenson did make a cool analogy, though. He said, if Clen is like putting your foot on the gas, Yohimbine is like taking your foot off the brake. There is definitely a synergy there if you can tolerate it. But if you can't tolerate it, if you don't feel good, man, there was a time back 15 years ago, I would tell people like, or I personally would just like accept it and be like, hey, you take Tren, you just don't sleep anymore. It's fine. You take Yohimbine, you feel like crap, but whatever. I don't like that idea anymore. Instead, I want you to feel good. I feel like if you feel good, if you're in a good mood, good vibes, good energy, you're probably going to lose more fat than if you feel like garbage. So instead of forcing the body to do what we want, I would rather encourage it to do what we want. You know what I'm saying? All right. Still scrolling up here. What else do we have? My nose is stuffy. I got to use my nasal spray, or else I'll start sniffling into the microphone, and I know you guys will hate that. Let's see here. Okay, what is a protocol for HCG during or after a cycle? Dosage and frequency. All right, we can cover that. Give me just a second, guys. All right. So HCG, if you wanted to use, I think it depends on what you want to use HCG for. I would say though, if so there's two main reasons, and that's to help you recover your natural production. Number one, LH and FSH, we want to get those things cranking after the cycle. Or number two, to maintain testicular size, basically. Either of those things, I would say ballpark 250 to 500 IU twice per week is pretty average, or every 3 days, something like that. If you aren't planning on recovering your natural testosterone, if you don't have issues with testicular atrophy, or you just don't care about testicular atrophy, then I don't see a necessary need where everybody should run HCG. But if you had those issues, or if you're a guy who comes off, does PCT afterwards and recovers your natural test, absolutely, I think HCG can be beneficial in that case. Let's see. What else do we have here? How about this one? Okay. You guys tell me what you think on this. Waldo asks us, when do you start feeling and seeing the effects of GH when you go on it? I think that the number one thing will depend on how much HGH you're running, okay? If you're taking 10 units a day, you're probably going to notice something pretty quick. You're going to see the scale go up, relatively fast. I think there's that. If you're taking a lower dose, it might be really mild. In fact, if you're taking like 2 units a day, you might not see much of anything at all, especially if you're already on cycle. What are we looking for from it? We're looking for possibly additional scale weight, especially the more you take, the heavier that scale is going to get, additional fluid retention. Some people will notice that they're getting improved recovery from their training. If you're on cycle, it might be kind of harder to read that. If you're not on cycle, you're just on TRT or even not on anything at all, you'd be more likely to notice a difference. But those would be kind of the starting places. You'll see some people say that they get improved sleep. I think that that's a potential real thing. Increased appetite. I've heard some people say that, but I've heard people say that about gear. And I wonder sometimes if the appetite thing is kind of a placebo effect. I don't know. But some people will swear by it. So I'm not going to throw it out as not being a thing. Yeah. Cornelia says you will feel a large dose of GH immediately. I found that when I used Humatrope, if I pushed it to past like 7 units, I would feel my heartbeat in my head within about an hour. That was the only time where I felt like, whoa, this is some real stuff. I had the 72 unit kits. In fact, I think I still have the green pen floating around here somewhere. What else do we have here? Stefan says, is there a full archive of Blood, Sweat, and Gear on the internet somewhere with all the episodes? That's a good question, man. So your best bet would be to go to audio. Audio would be the place that you'd be able to get all the episodes. If you wanted to go all the way back to episode 1, you're going to have to go to a little website called advicesradio.com, or you can go to Advices Radio on podcast app. They're available there. You can take it all the way back to the start if you go that route. Back then, Muscle Minds was with Scott Stevenson and Jordan Peters. So that was the original Muscle Minds, like the first 20 episodes, something like that. Have you ever heard of Masteron causing nosebleeds? Labs and blood pressure are fine. I'm using test SIP at 180 milligrams Monday, Wednesday, Friday. MASD 100 milligrams Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and getting nosebleeds every day for nearly 2 months. Jeez. Josh, so your labs are fine. I assume then, where's your hematocrit at? Is your hematocrit high? That would be a question I'd wonder. I would see at times I would get, and are you taking any supplements that could affect this? Man, I got the worst nosebleeds using serapeptase, which is a lot like nattokinase, which is good to take to avoid blood clots, especially if you have thicker blood like I tended to. When I used serapeptase, I definitely got nosebleeds. Is there something that could be causing like a lack of clotting going on? I would think about any other medications that you may be taking. I would consider that, man. Triv, what's up, man? He says, been a listener for a decade now. What's up, Scott? Good to have you, brother. Hope you're doing good, man. I've seen your name on all of our episodes for a really long time. All right. We got a question. Should you add insulin or should you add more AAS, more steroids? And man, I don't know. I guess it would depend on the cycle, right? when should you add more AAS? What they're going to be very different, right? You know, if you get to okay, here's my thought. If you get to a point with your cycle that adding more gear becomes redundant, then it might be a good time to look at going another direction, you know? And I suppose you could call insulin part of your quote unquote gear, but I'm just talking about anabolics. You know, man, even, you know what? You could even add more insulin before you add anabolics. I guess it depends too on how do you respond to it, you know? I've known some people, I've been somebody that, like, I couldn't get fat if I tried, you know? It was hard to make use of all the food I was eating, and adding some insulin in definitely helped. I've also worked with guys that would look at a carb and get fat, you know? So who are you, first of all? You know, how does your body respond? And then of course too, what else are you doing? You know, it's kind of a depends question, because it really does depend on a lot. It depends on not only what are you already doing, but it depends on who are you and how do you respond, you know? I'm just going to grab this one because it just popped up from James. What negatives Yohimbe affects? Like a pre-workout drink or like a ultra monster. Negatives would be, it gives you just kind of there's kind of a stim effect, but it's kind of just a crappy flu-like feeling. It's not a fun experience. I'm going to tell you that much right now. I want to know too, if anybody watched my last Ask Me Anything, did you guys go out and get a blood pressure monitor? Because I talked to a few people that told me they weren't checking their blood pressure before that. Listen, and I'm just going to say it again. If you guys aren't checking your blood pressure, please start checking your blood pressure. And I assumed, by the way, we got that question about bleeding. Check your blood pressure regularly. I assume when you told me like everything is health-wise looks good, blood pressure, I should have mentioned that, would be my very first thought, Josh. So I would definitely look at that, man. You said labs looked good. I just took that for being blood pressure looked good too. Definitely blood pressure. Duh. That's the go-to, man. If you have high blood pressure, you can definitely get nosebleeds more easily. What else do we have here? What's up, Tina? How's it going? Good to see you here. We got Tina Carlson with us. Benny Preacher. What else do we have here? You guys got any questions for me? Feel free to post them up. Thoughts on a primo to testosterone ratio? What's up, man? So I think it depends too on the individual. We know that primo is definitely going to affect your conversion to estrogen, right? And that can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing. Some people, I think, do fine with, say, like a 1-to-1 ratio. And I don't know what your experience is like, but let's say that you are we'll say a newer user. You know, maybe 300 and 300 would be a good place to go. Now, a month in, get your lab work done. You can go over to Merrick Health. I have no affiliate with those guys, but no affiliation. But like estrogen to check with them is $10 freaking. So it's very cheap. You know, you could go check that out, see what your estrogen level is, and then you could adjust it from there. Let's say that you're bottoming out your estrogen. You could always either add more test or drop some primo, or you could do both. You could go to, say, 350 test and 250 primo, and then a few weeks later, see how you're feeling and maybe check it again. I would not let my estrogen get completely tanked. That would be the one thing I would try to go out of my way to not do, you know. What else do we have here? I know we still had some more questions, and I had some on my phone. Hello from the coast of Alabama. All right. You don't think of Alabama as having a coast, but they have a coast. Is a finger oxygen meter beneficial? So after I had gotten sick in 2021, I started relying on one of those, $10, and you can check both your heart rate and you could check your blood oxygen. I check it on my watch now. I got an Apple Watch, and it's kind of cool because some of that stuff just runs in the background. I don't even know it's checking, and then I'll look at my stats and see where I'm at. I've seen, for me personally, I've noticed that my oxygen does go down at times, and I don't feel as well during that time. I think for most generally healthy people, it's not going to be something that's going to give you a ton of data, to be honest. If you struggle with breathing, I definitely check it. Yeah. All right. Mike asked us about blood donations. Oh, and I see a SLU question. I'll get to that one too. I see a few of them come in. You guys are freaking awesome. What parameters, cutoffs do you use when deciding when to recommend blood donation? Gosh. So this is like a topic that people will argue over nowadays. Like, this is a topic, believe it or not, you can start some fights if you go too far in at least one direction, because it used to be that you would always donate blood if your hematocrit got too high. The thought was that it's only in unhealthy situations that our hematocrit is high, so we shouldn't let our hematocrit get there. But then people started realizing, like, hey, people are actually doing okay. There are people that live in elevation that have higher hematocrit. If it's being caused by TRT, it's not that you're having a health issue that's causing it. It's the TRT that's causing it. You're going to be doing pretty well. I would say this. If you get above 55, and this is not doctor's information, obviously, this isn't a suggestion of any kind. I'm not a medical professional. But in my experience, if you get above 55 and you're showing symptoms, might not be a bad idea to consider doing something about it. What are we looking for? If you start noticing that your face is turning red easily all the time, you feel your heartbeat in your face, you notice that you're getting winded easily, just walking up a flight of stairs, bending over to tie your shoes, if these things are making you out of breath more easily, your blood might be a little bit more thick than you're comfortable with, so you could consider donating then. I ran really high hematocrit for quite a couple of years, 2-3 years. And that's because I didn't want to let my test levels go below, a certain amount. I didn't want to stop taking less than 300. I was like, I just take 300 is my TRT. I'll just live with that. Or, 250 and some Primo, or some Mast. It's fine. But my blood got really thick, and I got to the point where I was donating regularly. Now, what's the drawback of this? That what I learned from Dante is that if you do donate regularly, your body will compensate by making more red blood faster. All right. Now, in order for me to get my hematocrit down from like 57, 58, back when I was donating blood, well, actually, first of all, you can't just do it through donation. You can't really get it down. If you're at 60, you're not going to get a huge change by doing one blood drop. I had to do what's called therapeutic phlebotomy. I got a prescription for it. I went to the outpatient infusion center at my local hospital. You're in there with like the chemo patients, and they will pull out like 450 mils of blood. And then guess what? If my blood was at like 58, 60, the doctor would schedule me to do it every week for the first month. And then after that, once a month. That's how often I had to go in order to get it down. And as a result, it would drop my ferritin. My ferritin would get really low. But I talked to my doctor about it because I said, hey, why is my ferritin so low? And he said, well, it's obviously because of the donations, right? Or the bloodlets. But he said, we want your ferritin lower now because that ferritin was sending the signal to create more red blood. So I was like, oh, okay. So I did that for some time. It was not freaking fun. I prefer now to just let my blood come back down. So I'm a bigger advocate of, like, for me, I'm not competing anymore, right? I'm going to try to go to real TRT. I find that if you can do that, you're more likely to not have your red numbers go up too high during your cycles. If you're always high, I would ask, is there anything else that could be causing this? Like, do you have sleep apnea? Sleep apnea can definitely cause high red blood numbers. So before you just say like, it's okay, everybody has thick blood now, we're all okay with it. Like, look at it and see, what's really causing it. Does it have to be high? And my personal take is that if you are a little high and you're comfortable, you wouldn't have noticed it otherwise, blood pressure is fine, you're not dealing with the shortness of breath, anything like that, you're probably okay. I do worry personally with more red blood numbers. Like, am I going to be more likely to have clotting issues? So, I will take either serrapeptase or nattokinase. I think the nattokinase I'm running is like 4,000 FU per day. I think they come in 2,000 FU caps, and I do 2 of those, so 4,000 a day. You can look into supplements too, like IP6 will chelate the iron and help to pull your numbers down. But it's you got to take a lot of IP6, like several grams a day, in order to get a small change. But one bloodlet, it's not going to make a dramatic difference. So anyway, that's my thought about that. What else do we have there? Okay. Josh says hematocrit was 51 last month. No other meds. Oh, okay. He's the guy who had the nosebleeds. Blood pressure is okay. You son of a bitch. You took my idea, man, and it didn't work. I wanted you to have high blood pressure so I could be right. No, I don't know what it is, man. I am sorry. I don't know offhand what could be causing it. More SLU stuff. So I've been, and I think there was another question about SLU a little bit further up. Here it was. Can you compare MOTS-C and SLU? I really like SLU, and I just ordered MOTS. So I can't compare them because I haven't run them the same way. SLU, I've got these parabolic 250 microgram caps now. I'm doing 2 doses of those per day. Once first thing in the morning, and again, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Just took it before we started here. I find that nobody's told me that you should take it on an empty stomach, but I'm kind of leaning toward thinking it might be more effective on an empty stomach. Now with the MOTS-C, I'm using it infrequently, and I'm still on the SLU. So it's something I can't compare, but I do feel a cognitive boost when I use it, and I do feel supercharged for the entire day. I know that it's been used in various ways, like I think 5 milligrams 3 times a week. I have done it differently. I've been using, and I want to see how it works. I've been doing, initially I was going to do 1 milligram a day, but I got such a boost from it, and the SLU is working so good that I've done 1 milligram infrequently. So it's just however I'm responding to it, that's what I'm getting. I get a good boost from it. I don't know if it would continue working daily. I have a feeling just in the back of my head and from talking to other people, like you may get some diminishing returns over time. I don't know. Okay. Some people will tell you you're supposed to take it 3 times a week at a higher dose. Personally, after I've seen what I get off of 1 milligram, I wouldn't want to take 5 milligrams at once. That's just me. But, we're all different, right? So I'll tell you what, man, you tell me, Jeff, what do you get from MOTS-C when you give it a try? Somebody on the first live stream, on the first Ask Me Anything, he told me, he was like, MOTS-C has never been proven to work. And, you're supposed to take a lot 3 times a week or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's what he says. Okay. If that's, all right. I personally have gotten this energy, so I don't know what to tell you, it's just my experience. All right. What else did we have here though? So we did get questions about SLU. And I've mentioned a few times 500 at this point. I think you can do great with 400. Here's my question. have I gotten diminishing returns over time with 400, or did I just get used to what it was providing me? It's kind of hard to tell, So I'm not going to say that there is diminishing returns. I did a couple of weeks ago say there might be. I'm not going to say that there is diminishing returns, but it's possible. I know some people are running more than that. I know some people are at like 700 or 600 or even more, but I found 500 is good. I don't think I'm going to take it any higher than this. Also too, there comes like a financial aspect to it. If I started taking, say, 1,000 micrograms and 1 milligram a day, like, is that worth the cost to me? I don't think that it would be, I think that I think there's some redundancy in there of just taking more. I would rather look into another direction, I know we had some more in here. Yeah, cardio. What am I doing for cardio right now? So it kind of floats. It depends on how I'm feeling, but I will do up to an hour per day of cardio. If I'm training hard, I might only do 30 minutes. If I'm not training at all, I might do an hour. Today I decided not to do cardio. I've been doing cardio every day consistently, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to train shoulders today. I had a good workout, felt great, took a shower, plugged in with you guys. I decided I'm not going to do cardio today. Still have some more check-ins to do, and I feel good. My objective every day with movement and exercise is to feel good, and that's what I'm getting every single freaking day. I don't feel like I'm slacking on my cardio because I'm not doing it today, but I will be picking back up tomorrow. There's no question about that. Oh, by the way, that's just about, I'm getting up to like 125 beats per minute. Maybe it'll go a little bit higher if I do it after I'm done training. If I do it from being sedentary and then just get on the treadmill, it might take me 15 minutes to get my heart rate really where I want it to be, up in that 120s range. And I might have to push a little bit harder. I know a lot of people, David, he mentions methylene blue. I know a lot of people are doing really good with SLU and methylene blue together. I say go for it. I'd say with methylene blue, start with a low end dose and take your time with it. Don't rush to get it up, and see what works for you. It wasn't for me. I found that I got too spacey on methylene blue. And he mentions adding in berberine with that. Heck yeah, man. I think that could be really beneficial. Berberine is a great glucose disposal agent, really good for fat loss. Some people respond to it really well. Generally, we'll see it in like between 300 to 500 milligram capsules. I try to split that up with carb meals through the day. I know Dave Crossland talked about having smaller, like 200 milligram caps, which is great. If you could do that, you could spread it out through the whole day. But I think a lot of the research on it has been done around 1,500 milligrams. I've gotten good benefits with people using even 500 per day. But, see what works for you, man. And if you can tolerate, no digestive issues with 1,500, then I'd say right out that 1,500. It's definitely going to be a lot healthier for you than trying to use something like metformin. You could also look into what I'm doing, like Retatrutide, or one of the other GLP-1s. That could be a potential option. All right. What else do we have here, guys? Ideas for cutting a very adaptive body. Caloric reduction gives a small effect that quickly stalls, so calorie level gets much lower than the body fat level would imply. Damn. And what's up, Justin? I see you there, man. Good to have you, brother. All right. So I've worked with people like you, Rainlander. Man, it's going to take just paying a lot of attention, right? We talked about carb cycling briefly earlier in the stream. You could be a good candidate for carb or calorie cycling of some fashion, right? I think that everybody, to some level or another, is going to stall, right? Some people are going to stall faster than others. I've worked with some people, though, where you're like, we're on to something. And then a few days later it stops. And then we work hard, we figure out the next step, or we're on to something. And then the next day it stops. Sometimes it's a matter of pulling harder. Oftentimes with a guy like you, it might even be adding more, you know? Why are you resistant to change? That would be my thought. You know, sometimes the added stress can be an issue. There are situations where pulling all cardio and eating a slightly higher food, you know, is going to de-stress the body, and you're going to make progress based off of that. So it's not always about reducing, you know. It's just, you know, we could sit here and complain about it, that your body's harder to work with, or we just accept it and we look at what do we have to do. And it's probably not going to be the easiest. You know, you take some guys, you put them on a diet, and 12 weeks later, you haven't adjusted anything, and they just keep coming down 2 pounds a week, 2 pounds a week. And then, yeah, you've got other people where you've got to, you know what, the more you work it, the more you're going to figure it out too. But I guess we just have to look at what are your tools. Your tools to avoid adaptation are more cardio or less cardio, right? More carbs or less carbs, you know, more overall calories, less overall calories, and your training, your stress. And then of course there's things like fat burners, gear, all that stuff too. But really it's going to be toggling through those things, getting that initial, sometimes it's just a matter of getting in there and working it. You know what I'm saying? Knowing what your tools are, and then seeing what happens, and then throwing something at it, seeing, does this work, you know? And eventually you'll start to figure it out. That's, at least it's the best way I can describe it as a coach, because as a coach, like I've worked with a lot of people, but that doesn't mean I know how everybody's body's going to respond the second I start working with them. There's a process of figuring each individual out. Each person is like their own puzzle. They all are going to respond differently. You know, we all have our own nuances in how we respond. But once you figure out one thing that worked, you really want to pay close attention and analyze, okay, well, what was going on leading into this? You know, what did we do? Did I have a day off training leading into this? Did I have higher calories leading into this change? Like, try to look at all the factors, and then also look at the rest of your life too. Like, how was my sleep for the last few days leading into this great change? It's really when we see the progress we want, we want to find, well, how is this a pattern, you know? So we look at all the things that led into it, you know, and if you can start to piece it together, then you can better recreate it, you know. Sometimes it's a matter of pushing hard and pulling back. Sometimes it's a matter of pushing hard and then pushing harder, you know. But if you push hard and you make some progress, and then progress stalls, and then you push harder and you don't get the results, now you at least know, well, that wasn't the answer, you know. So what else can I try? Maybe it's going to be pulling back, you know. Maybe it's going to be 2 days off of cardio, or maybe it's going to be putting some more food in for 2 days. You know, it's that's the way that we figure it out though. And over time, having that continued dialogue with your body, eventually it all starts making more sense, you know. But it does take a while, and some people it takes longer than others, you know. But if you keep fighting that fight, man, and you keep having that dialogue open with your body, eventually you will figure it out, you know. The same thing goes with everybody though. Like when we get asked, what's the best steroid stack? It's like, everybody's different. Like you ask Dave Crossland, he'll tell you nandrolone all day, DECA, best compound ever. You ask Skip or Andrew or me, we'll say EQ, greatest drug for growth, right? The reality is it's going to be different for everybody. But once you find what works for you, then you personally lean into that, you know. I don't care what the what do they call them? The steroid profiles say. Like, you know, it all depends on how your body responds. And I don't care if we have a list of, you know, Masteron will do this, this, and this for you. If we're getting this for you, then that's the most important thing, you know. So anyway, what else do we have here? Scott, long time listener, first time writing. I love hearing that. What's up, Pedgman? He says, never done juice, but still love watching all your podcasts. For us naturals, may you go over supplements to best take. Obviously, D3 is key. Yeah, you know me. I'm all about the vitamin D. Yeah, man, I'll be honest with you. I feel like overall supplementation, it doesn't have to be super complex. And I think that in the last decade, there has been a lot more of a push that if you are, and I'm going to speak to gear users, if you are using gear, then you need to be taking this whole laundry list of supplements. You know, those things, they aren't necessarily an insurance plan. You know, like they aren't going to back you up. They aren't a guarantee. It still comes down in those cases to dose and duration. Those are really the foundations of staying healthy. And then when needed, when your labs tell us, or when we know, like you're using an oral, it's going to be liver toxic, then we can lean into more supplements. But I wouldn't ever say like every AAS user should be on liver care 24/7, you know? So just kind of keep that in mind, because I am seeing that more. I'm all for a lot of the products that are out there, like the Revive products and stuff, but we don't need to be running all of those things year round. And some of us might not need certain products at all, you know? So, and you base it off your labs. But anyway, back to Petchman's question for natural guys. So D3 is a huge one, absolutely. And with that, we want to take vitamin K2. That'll help you to, especially if you're using like a higher level of D. D can help with basically storing too much calcium. We can end up with calcium stones. Like I'm taking a lot of, you can insert jokes. I'm taking a lot of D, guys. But you want to take K2 to balance that out. I believe it's 100 micrograms per every 1,000 IU of vitamin D. Fish oil is another really great one. Basic, great health supplement for everybody. In fact, man, fish oil is so beneficial to us, like in ways that we don't even think about. I know this, he was a high-level psychiatrist, very well respected in his field. And this was like, man, 15 years ago. He insisted that any of his patients that needed or were interested in running an SSRI, that they would have to run 12 grams of fish oil for a period of time before he would even consider it, because serotonin is produced in the gut, and there was a link to essential fats from fish oil being beneficial for its production. You know, our medical community doesn't stop to think like, well, maybe we just need to improve your body's own natural health so that it can improve serotonin production. We just go straight to the SSRI, but that's another conversation. So yeah, I think that that's a good one. And then just like anybody else, like what's your health look like? I assume if you're natural, you're probably also paying attention to your health overall. Essential fats, I think, are going to be huge for a natural guy. They can get a little bit overplayed. We don't need, 200 grams of fat in order to produce testosterone. But remember, though, that testosterone is based off of cholesterol. Cholesterol is that raw material. We need good, healthy fats in our diet in order to produce testosterone. So keep that in mind. That's going to be, important. If I were to go back 10 years, 15 years, I would have added in hydrolyzed collagen sooner. That's my plug for True Nutrition, I guess, for the day, because that's where I get mine from. I've shopped around, went to a lot of different places to look for pricing on hydrolyzed, good quality hydrolyzed beef collagen. And I haven't found better pricing or pricing that would beat True Nutrition. So I stick with them for the quality of what you get. I like their product. Of course, code THINK, that supports the podcast. If you can use it. I see they have like different things where you can't use a code because you bought too much, you get a different code, whatever. If you can't use a code, I don't care, right? I want you guys to get the best deal you can. on that. But I would go back and I would add collagen in sooner. Collagen is one of the few supplements that can actually regrow connective tissue. And I would swear by it in repairing my shoulder. I did use a lot of super subs too, but I tore my supraspinatus, partial tear. And I believe I was able to fix that in part because of supplementing collagen. Now with an injury, I dosed it high. I would use like 30 grams a day, and I did that for about 2 years. But I talked to a guy who did all of his PhD research on collagen. He told me that 20 grams was where the magic happened. So if you're not injured, you go with 20 grams. It's going to save you some money, right? Because you're not using quite as much. A good quality collagen is not cheap. It's not really quite a complete protein. So it's not something that, it's not something that's going to completely replace a protein source you had in. But, talking to Scott Stevenson, he said, hey, if you were to take your collagen at the time that you use another complete protein source, some of those amino acids may get donated in to help round out the collagen to make that more of a complete protein and make more of it utilizable. Is that a word even? You guys tell me in the chat. Is utilizable? Utable? I don't even know. What would that word be? But you'd be able to better utilize potentially that as a complete protein for muscle building as well. Let's see. Rainlander. He was the guy who had been, and I think that was it, by the way. I'm really not a huge fan of pushing supplements needlessly. I'm trying to think if I think of anything else. Oh, you know what? I got a real simple one for you. Creatine. Like creatine might be, gosh, I feel like everybody's going to say, do you guys think, you tell me in the chat, is creatine overrated? And you can just either write overrated or underrated. We're going to take a poll right now. I want to know what you guys think. Is creatine overrated? I personally think it's underrated at this point. Now, if we go back to 1990 something, 91 maybe, if you asked me if creatine, like then it was overrated. People were like, you were going to gain 35 pounds of pure muscle off of creatine. And doctors were saying, creatine's going to shut your kidneys down. Utilizable is a word. Thank you, Philip. I appreciate you. All right. Justin tells us underrated. Okay. Danny's going to go against our grain, Justin, and he's going to say that it is overrated. Now it's going to be my duty to convince Danny that creatine is underrated. So there is research now to show that it's good for brain health. It's more than just helpful for muscle growth. But I get it. Like I get that if you're using gear, creatine is kind of like a drop in the bucket, right? For the brain health thing though, I'm all for it. And for a natural guy, I think that you are going to get some additional benefits from it. I don't tell my clients like everybody must use creatine, but if they're like, hey, can I use it? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I don't think we need much. I'd experimented with up to like 20 grams of creatine a day. I know Crossland uses high doses. Dave was a big dude too. So I do think that, and now Dave wasn't 400 pounds of muscle, but he was at least 320 pounds of muscle, right? Like you could probably handle more creatine than I could. Does he need 20? I don't know about that. Bill War Room Toko is with us. Guys, this is a special treat. What does he say here? He says, hey, Scott, let's see. I think creatine is not overrated. Yeah, neural protection qualities. I agree with that. And great for the cardiovascular system. I didn't know that it was good for the cardiovascular system. Guys, I got to tell you who Bill War Room Toko is. So, least impressive of his accolades, Bill was my training partner for a number of years. And Bill was also I'm going to get it right this time, man, 1989 You can crucify me in the comments, Bill, if I'm wrong. 1989, because I used to say 87, and he told me I'm not that old. 1989 World Skateboard Champion. That's the world, guys. Do you guys remember how popular skateboarding was? Some of you guys don't remember 89 period because you weren't there. Skateboarding was everything in the 80s, especially the late freaking 80s. Like everybody was skating. Bill got sponsored by Gold's Gym in Venice Beach. So he lived in Michigan, right? Learned how to skateboard out back at his parents' restaurant. The older, like the bus boys, they were all skateboarding, and it was probably like those shitty plastic skateboards that looked like a banana, you know? He was probably learning on those. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe not. That was, I think, before his time. But anyway, he got good, and he got really good on like vertical stuff, and won that world championship. He moved out and he lived at Gold's Beach, Venice, like as a freaking teenager, early 20s. Bill was in, those like Teen Beat magazines. They had him on the cover of those. Sometimes like because he worked out, right? Bill exercised because he knew that he wasn't jacked at the time. He got pretty big, but he knew that getting into good shape would help him with skating. So he really focused on that. And he was hanging out with guys like he trained with Gary Stridham for like a 20-year-old kid, training with pro bodybuilders like Gary Stridham, living at Gold's Venice, the only pro skater to get sponsored by Gold's, I think, ever, if I'm not mistaken. That's freaking incredible. But Bill's got a hell of a story. And now Bill has a cool gym. I believe it's in Troy, Michigan. It's a private gym, but I think you guys could get in if you were to like DM him or something on social media and say, hey, I want to check the place out. He might let you in. He's got all Arsenal equipment. I think he's expanded out more now, but it's just a small place. And let me tell you, Arsenal equipment is not cheap. So he probably has like, God, $500,000 in Arsenal equipment jammed into this really cool little gym. All the colors match. And Bill's kind of an eccentric guy. All right. He was like, I want this like to be more like an art exhibit than a gym. So like the walls are all white. The machines are all white. The place is pretty incredible, man. And he's got a cool training business running out of that too. So anyway, that's a shout out to my good friend, Bill. You're freaking awesome, man. Glad to have you here, brother. Bill's a hard trainer too. Let me tell you guys. All right. What else do we have going on here? What else did you guys tell me? Any more overrated, underrated? I feel bloat with just 5 grams of creatine. Okay, Danny, in that case, I can see why it's overrated for you, man. Oh, I got it wrong. It was 87. Damn it. Sorry, Bill. I was close, man. I was 2 years off. I'm 2 years off every time. You know what it was, man? I was like, I think it's 87. So I'm going to say, because I always get it wrong, I'm going to say 89. So anyway, there's that. All right. We got another underrated here on my side then. Oh, Philip says overrated health benefits. It's underrated. Muscle building overrated. I don't know. Now that I'm basically, I got to tell you guys. So I did tell you, I decided to run some gear. I added that at the beginning of I said that at the beginning of the thing. So I got some lab work done, or I'm getting lab work done. Lab work is on Wednesday. Listen, this is one of those things where I'm saying, do what I say, not what I do. Okay. So the scale's at 191 today. I am down a lot, right? I started at 217, basically natty on regular TRT, running SLU, low dose Retatrutide, and pushing the cardio. I've dieted hard. I'm very hungry every day. I wake up in the middle of the night to pee, and I'm hungry. I'll eat a half a rice cake just to go back to bed. Also, I have a pro tip on getting back to sleep when you're hungry. I'll share that in a minute. I decided to pull the trigger on some gear, but with the caveat that I'm also getting blood work. So I pretty much, because it takes a while for your gear to build up, I've only taken one shot so far. And by the time I get my labs, if my hematocrit is still high, then I'm just going to have to go back down to TRT. I'm hoping my hematocrit's back down because I've been doing a lot of cardio. I've had breathing issues since I'd gotten sick, right? And I also hadn't done as much cardio as I am now. I'm hoping my hematocrit's back down now. My breathing has been better than ever. We'll see. If it is down, then I'm going to continue running the gear. And you're wondering, what are you running, Scott? I'm running test and I'm running EQ. So I'm thinking, if my hematocrit's down, I might do something like 800 test, 600 EQ. That's not a small cycle. I've run a lot of gear in the past, so we'll see. We'll see if I do that. That's kind of what I'm toying with, but I've always had a really good response to EQ. I would love to get it in there. As of right now, I'm on 400 test, 300 EQ as of right now. So we'll see. Just taking that. We'll see if I can continue dosing this stuff or if I have to come off. Truth time. There you go. That's the truth. Now, what else do you guys have for me? Post up some questions. Rambo, what's going on, man? Says, hey, Scott, I've been prescribed Pharma GH, 5 milligrams, 1.5 milliliter vial. It doesn't say how many units is in it, but I think it worked out to be 15 units per 1.5 ml. Oh my God, you're going to make me do math. You guys tell me, is it 3 units equals 1 milligram? Because I haven't used growth in a while and I haven't had to do this conversion in a while. Somebody out there who's watching will know this though. I believe that it's 3 units of growth equals 1 unit of GH. So I think that you would be right in that case, Rambo. Oh, okay. And we'll go to this one. My pro tip for going to sleep hungry. All right, here's the deal. Sleepy time tea, okay? Now, it's not going to knock you out. I'm not saying like, oh, you're going to drink this tea and all of a sudden, because it's got chamomile in it, that's going to make you sleepy and you're going to fall. No, I'm not saying that, but it does have flavor. I don't care if you care for tea, if you're a tea person or not. When you consume something that's hot and it has flavor, it does fill your stomach up. You know what I'm saying? And if there is some additional benefits that it is going to help you feel more restful, more power to you. But I hadn't used this in a while and I just broke it back out last night. I threw a cup of water in the microwave. That's the way I made my tea because I'm American. I know there's some English people here that are going to just die when they hear me say that. That's how I made my tea. All right. I took a mug. I filled it up with tap water. I put it in the microwave for 1.5 minutes. I had hot water. Then I put a tea bag in it. I took it into the bedroom. I took the tea bag out when it cooled, squeezed it out, threw it in the trash, drank my tea. I felt so good. I felt like I had consumed something. It made me feel more restful. I'm just going to throw it out there to you. If you try it, let me know. I had always used green tea during the day, during contest prep, because it isn't going to add any calories to your diet. It does give you a sense of consuming something. You know what I mean? Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I knew it. David is from England. Blasphemy. Yes. Cornelius Parkin, what was your heaviest cycle, Scott? So it would have been off season. So to me, this was a lot. I know people have run more. I'd done a cycle leading into a show where I pushed the test up over 1 gram. Okay. And I felt like I did really well with that. So the next off season, I ended up going to 1.25 grams a test. I took the EQ up. It was either 800 or 1,000. I can't remember which, to be completely transparent with you. From there, that was the foundation of it. I then added in NPP. Initially, I was going to run the NPP at 350 a week. I ended up only using 200. So we can do the math here. And then on top of that, I ran for short periods of time 100 D-ball per day. When I ran the 100 D-ball, I would take 50 in the morning and then 50 injectable pre-workout. On non-training days, I would take 50 in the morning oral, 50 at night. And I would do that for about 3 weeks at a time, 3 weeks on, and then I would take 3 weeks off of that, and I'd run IGF for 3 weeks, and then I'd go back on to that again. I was also using insulin during that cycle. I did make good progress. That may have been the year that I moved up from middleweight to light heavy. Or no, I already was a light heavy. I think I already was a light heavy at that point. It's hard to remember all the exacts, but those were the doses, and I probably ran that for ballpark 16 weeks, something like that. And I didn't do the NPP all the way through, but that was the gist of it. So here's the thing. Some people will say that Philip, Scott's Diet Secrets, vitamin the D and tea bags. Yeah, thanks, buddy. Glad we're friends. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate you. I've heard some people say that the reason that we associate equipoise with high hematocrit is because studies done on hematocrit were done with EQ, but that other compounds are just as likely. So there is that truth that other compounds will raise your hematocrit too. I'm not sure how much more EQ will, but I think it depends on the individual too. I found especially as we age, we tend to get thicker blood. We tend to not always, but we tend to be more sensitive to getting higher hematocrit as we age. That and guys who keep their TRT doses up high. You know, if you keep your TRT dose high, then we tend to run thicker blood because you just never get that break. You know what I mean? What do you say here? Sweat Machine. By the way, I love that name, Sweat Machine. The U.S. is lower. The restriction on testosterone has China into restricting raws like Masteron and Primo. Going to get real hard soon. Okay. Lowering the restrictions on testosterone and has pressured China into restricting raws like Masteron and Primo. I haven't heard that. Now, on Monday, we're going to put out an episode of Drugs and Stuff. That's tomorrow. And on that episode, Dave's going to talk about having contacted some raw sources. He's going to tell you about how there were some issues from one of the big raw sources who had an issue with some of their test SIP, some of their test E, and their Primo. As a result, I guess that there have been some companies that are pulling all the Primo out. He'll tell you more about that in the podcast, but I don't know about the pressuring China thing. The reality is that we can't make China do anything. Like, really, I'm being completely, like, we can't. You know, like, China doesn't care about what we want. You know, they may try to make us happy in some ways on the surface, but then they're going to keep doing what they want. And if they can make money, they're going to continue to make money. I'm sure of that. But there may be a legit issue with product and manufacturing. So, like I said, I don't know the details. Dave spoke to somebody on that, and we're going to talk about that on the podcast tomorrow. Yeah, Bill says IP6 been a huge help to keeping my hemoglobin under control. Bill, all right, let's see. Sometimes it gets above 50. Okay. Taking IP6, it always stays under 50. Bill, how much IP6 are you taking a day? I'd be curious. Cornelius Parkins says 100 milligrams of D-ball would destroy me. Yeah, so that was the only time I ever did 100. And I got that idea from watching a video on muscular development. I can't remember his name. Everybody used to remember the dude. Do you remember Branch Warren had a training partner who was a pretty big jack dude? He was, I think, a national level bodybuilder, and he ended up getting busted for dealing gear. And they did in the trenches with him. And he talked about his cycle, and he said 100 D-ball per day. And I was like, wow, okay, I'm going to try that. And that's when I tried the 100 D-ball. It was the one and only time. It was pretty intense. How much Arimidex is needed for 300 to 400 tests per week? It's going to test probe a week. It's going to depend on the individual. You might have some people that don't need any at all, and then there are going to be some people that are more sensitive to it. Another thing to keep in mind is not only that conversion to estrogen, but let's also, by the way, Bill says 1600 on the IP6. Thanks, man. I should probably get back on IP6. Let's not only look at your conversion to estrogen, but let's also look at your ability to eliminate estrogen. And that's going to come down to a lot of stuff related to liver health. If your liver is functioning really well, your body's going to do a good job at breaking down estrogen, preparing it for elimination, and then it gets eliminated through your poop when you go to the bathroom. That's how it leaves our bodies. So that's going to be a factor. I would, number one, make sure that like all your health is in check, right? And then from there, if you needed any Arimidex, I would base it off of how you feel. Are you getting gyno? Are you getting any kind of sensitivities? I would base your needs off of that. The only way you could know for sure is to get lab work done, So I would start your cycle, and maybe 2 to 3 weeks in, that's when you could, if you're using 400 a week, you could probably preemptively start a small dose, but then, maybe it's going to end up being 1 milligram a week total, split into 4 doses. So if you were doing, say, 400, let's say you're doing 100 every other day of Prop, and you use 0.25 milligrams of Arimidex the day after each shot. 3 weeks from now, get your lab work done and see if you even need it. Maybe you're going to pull that out, or maybe you're going to pull some of it out. And then what I was getting at too is that if you wanted to, you could also look at an alternative, look at calcium deglucarate, which would help you to more rapidly eliminate that estrogen out of your system. Therefore, it doesn't build up as high. You may be able to get away with something natural like that, because we're not talking 400 milligrams a test from a fast-acting testosterone. We're not talking about massive amounts of estrogen in most people, but there are going to be some people that pool it up, that don't eliminate it as effectively. So yeah, something like calcium deglucarate, there's a process called glucuronidation where you will basically prepare estrogen to be cleaved off, eliminated, broken down, and removed from your system. So let's see what else we have here. And then I'll probably have to wrap up pretty soon, guys. Wow, we've got over 100 freaking people. You guys are awesome. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. I'm just trying to scope back through here, see what else I missed. And I got to see if I missed anything on my list too. I know I had my list running. And what are you guys doing this weekend? Anything fun? Did you do anything fun this weekend? Tell me now in the stream. Anything out of the ordinary? Dane, what's up, Dane? Overrated, underrated, stevia. All right, that's a good one. I don't know. I like it now. I couldn't stand it when I first tried it. I felt like stevia just had a funky taste to it, and I still prefer Splenda in if I were to sweeten my coffee. But I'm more tolerant to it now. That's what we use in the house. Victoria prefers stevia. It's natural, versus who knows what we're really getting out of some of these chemical sweeteners. Is it overrated or underrated? I don't even think about it enough, I guess. I don't really hear people. Okay, so overrated, underrated also has to do with what society thinks about it, right? I don't feel like people are talking about it being great or anything like that. Everybody should be using stevia. I'll say underrated. I don't think many people are really talking about it. You know what I mean? What's the difference between feeling pain because you are pushing to failure versus pain because you are actually hurting yourself? Dang, mechanical monster. What's going on, man? That's a tough one. I'll tell you what, man. I remember that back in the day, when I was first learning how to lift at like 11 or 12, and I felt this pain in my elbow, and my dad was like, "That's okay. You just gotta fight through that pain." That was not the kind of pain you had to fight through. And it took me, like, I was being trained to lift, hearing that. Yeah. Yeah, it depends. Is it a sharp pain? You know what I mean? Is it a burn in the muscle? Like, we can handle a burn in the muscle. In fact, a burn in the muscle doesn't even mean you're coming close to failure. A burn in the muscle, that's sometimes just par for the course. You got to push through that and keep going, Like a bad pain is generally going to be in an area we don't want it, or it's going to be more sharp, There comes that level where, yeah, if it's a pain in the muscle and the muscle is burning, you can keep pushing into that and ride that out as far as you can go. Figure out how insane you really are in that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you really, what do you really have to, who are you? What are you made of? Those moments we have to keep pushing. But if it's like, oh my God, I have this sharp feeling in my knee every time I squat, every rep it's getting worse, I feel like it's going to blow out, then we stop. You know what I mean? Or my low back. Yeah, like if you're getting pain in your low back, we stop the set, Scott, will you be going to the Detroit Pro? It's in Dearborn. You could do some coverage, athlete interviews like Dave Palumbo. I'd offered to do stuff like that, but I don't think that they really want me to. I don't know why, but I feel like I try to be friends with everybody. But if I go, it would be more at the capacity just to watch the show because I'm a fan of the sport. Everybody's got their own cliques, and they don't want people to like come in on them and stuff. That's cool. Whatever. That's the way I feel about it. Been on 1 gram of test for 5 weeks, starting to get headaches after every injection recently. Blood pressure is fine, 120/80, so wouldn't think that it was hematocrit. Man, androgenic load. Yeah, because that's the first place I go, man. First place I go would just be, though. I mean, you're a little bit early, 5 weeks in, for hematocrit, unless your hematocrit was already really high. Blood pressure would be that first thing I would think of. But then I got to ask you, man, is it something we're not thinking of at all? Like, is it your hydration? Like, how much water are you drinking a day? Have your water needs gone up? Are you sweating more, now that you're on cycle? Then, that could be a factor too, right? Else we have here. Creatine does not do much for me except for upset my tummy. But I also eat lots of red meat. Yeah. All right. We got Alexandria all the way to Albuquerque. I think she's on her way home from Denver. And we've got Tina, just got home. Went to Las Vegas to train with my coach and attend a Team Elite Physique posing training workshop. Hell yeah. That's a freaking cool weekend. Good for you, Tina. Personally, do I prefer Humalog, Lantus, or a combination off-season wise? I'm going to say I like fast-acting insulin, and I would much prefer it depends on the situation. If you're running high blood sugar from growth hormone, I would be more likely to do something like a background long-acting insulin, but for bodybuilding purposes of like, let's try to get the most out of this meal, I'm a much bigger fan of pre-workout, Humalog, fast-acting, or if we can even get faster-acting insulin like Fiasp, I like the real fast stuff. And I wouldn't even be opposed to using it with multiple meals. Like we can even microdose it with multiple meals, 2 IU with a meal. I found something like that can work really well too. And maybe go like a little bit higher on, say, your pre-workout dosing, something like that. Bill Warham Toko, dude, you did not have to give me a super chat. Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate you, man. I had so many good workouts with Bill, guys. There's that time in my life when I worked for 7-Up. That's the time I trained with Bill for some of that. And sometimes you had to deal with crap at work that you were not a fan of. You had to deal with people. You'd have to see people that you really didn't want to see, but it was part of your job. But you would know that on Wednesdays you were going to go to Royal Oak Gym and you were going to hang and bang with your buddies and train some back. And you knew that no matter what else happened, you were going to continue on your diet and continue making all the choices you needed to make, because tomorrow when you got there to the gym, you were going to freaking throw down and you were going to grow some back, and you were going to do, regardless of everything else going on in your life, you were going to do all the things it took to make that progress. And Bill was a part of my life at that time. That's one of those points in life that, like, if you guys love bodybuilding, you all have had a point like that. And it's a good place to be, you know what I mean? Where bodybuilding was just that important to you, And I'm glad that you could be there for that, Bill. That was cool. All right. I think, if anything, guys, did I miss anything? Did I miss anything here? I feel like I might have. Optimizing the rebound. We didn't even talk about that. I'll close with optimizing the rebound. And somebody mentioned the progress that Paul Barnett made. Now, and I think that that's what we think of a lot when we think of optimizing the rebound. Is like everybody says, like, I want to make the progress like Paul did, So Paul wasn't a new bodybuilder, right, at that time. Skip had talked about this, saying he was arguably, very depleted, and he had over dieted. Now, put that in combination with Justin Harris, who has no problems, like really freaking, forcing those calories into the compartments we want them. I think that was a recipe for a very beautiful thing. I think, you know what, and it's not to take anything away from him saying that he was already an advanced guy, and so I think that some of that muscle was already there. If it wasn't, could you repeat it again the next year and the next year and the next year? I say all that because I do think that in our community over the last few years, people have gotten the idea in their heads that in order to make fantastic progress, you first need to diet down and then you slingshot it up. There is definitely some truth to that. You're definitely going to make great benefits from dieting down first. Of course, improving insulin sensitivity, getting the body fat off, because the more body fat you have off, the more room you have to grow. When does an off season or a bulk really end? It ends when you're fat, right? So if we can start shoving food in at the right times, I think that absolutely, man, we can definitely kind of, there's a period there, maybe for some people 6 to 8 to, so if you're really stretching it 12 weeks, I kind of look at it as like riding it like a wave, where we kind of ride it up, that, yeah, we can definitely like super partition food after a hard diet. And I do think that overall that idea is helped our community, because there is truth to the leaner you are, the better your insulin sensitivity is, the better you're going to grow. Is it magic? And it's kind of close to magic. it kind of is close to magic. I don't know if it is directly magic though. Like, it's hard to say, it's hard to say. I do think this. I do think that part of what we see after filling back out is just the fact that we had continued to grow muscle. We've seen research now, and now they didn't test that research, I don't think, to show, can you grow in a 2,000 calorie deficit, a 500 calorie, all these different numbers. But they did see that in a 500 calorie deficit, you can grow muscle, right? There was a research study done not too long ago that showed that. I guarantee you that we can grow with far less food than we think we can. In fact, I want to see if I can pull this picture up here. This is the example. Here it is. This is Vache, and Vache is a natural competitor. Now, this picture on the left here he's a men's physique competitor. On the left, that was before he started a contest prep. Then we dieted his ass off. He had to go down to keto and even to protein only, did a ton of cardio. And then after the contest, it was 22 week diet. After the contest, he screwed off, did what he wanted, ate his own diet, and filled back out. About 6 to 8 weeks, 8 weeks after the contest is when the second picture is. Now, he didn't do anything special there. What I'm going to tell you now is that the growth you see from left to right happened during a contest prep. He was in a deficit. He was a natural guy. He was doing a ton of cardio, and he had to go all the way down to protein only, yet he still came out the other side bigger. So the rebound isn't just about the rebound. It's also about actualizing some muscle that you grew during the diet. We're just not seeing it. Back to the idea of like the sponge being expanded versus contracted, that we're not keeping that muscle completely filled out through the whole diet phase. In fact, we're lucky if we can get it to be like 90% of its size the day of the show, right? It's only after we've super volumized with some more time and rested and been off diet, eaten enough food that we can really see the true volume of that muscle. So I think that some of the rebound, I think that there is some mild magic to a rebound. I think that the key is to take it slow. You need to take it slow. And if we take it slow, I've ridden it for 12 weeks with people, we can really push up the size. And generally, a lot of times we'll even do it without gear. We'll get you cleaned out. We'll push you up. And by the time that starts ending, we can add gear in, and then you just keep going up, because now you're back on cycle. You're cleaned back out, had that time off. I do think there is something to it. I think that as a community, we're onto something, that being able to first get into incredible shape is the first step to putting on as much muscle as you can. So I guess I'll leave it at that. You guys are freaking awesome. I've been here for 2 hours. I've got some more check-ins to do. If you're one of my clients and we're checking in right now, or today, I'm getting back to you right now. And everybody else already got their check-ins back. Everybody who came to hang out here, I wish I could thank each of you individually, but I'm going to thank you as a group, because you guys are freaking incredible. Thank you again to everybody who gave me super chats for this. Like, it blows my mind, and I appreciate the hell out of you. This is so fun, and I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to commit to doing an Ask Me Anything one time a month. That's what I can do. We also are doing B&R about, once in a while. I've got the Kuba podcast that I'm trying to do. So I need to also have enough downtime to take care of my clients, do all the editing and all that stuff. But I'm going to commit to this right now. You guys are here to hear me. One time a month, I'm going to do an Ask Me Anything. So every month we'll get an Ask Me Anything, and you guys can send in topics. In fact, comment on this, after it's out. I'm leaving it up and also putting it on an audio. Comment with any comments you have for ideas for the next one, and we'll be sure to get those on. You guys are freaking cool. Tomorrow is drugs and stuff. We're going to have this week on It's Just Bodybuilding, we've got Ron Harris. Ron's fun. He's got a lot of personality, you know, and we're going to talk about everything going on in bodybuilding right now. Like, we're going to ask him stuff like, is Martin Fitzwater, can he beat Nick Walker now? Are they even comparable? Have you guys seen the new pictures of Martin? Let me pull that up. We're going to talk about this more tomorrow. Here's Martin. Wait, there we go. Got to go to, there we go. Check this back shot out. Look at that. This is 12 weeks out from Pittsburgh versus 12 weeks out from the Detroit Pro, which he did really good at last year. Come on now, guys. He's looking pretty wild, right? He's made some tremendous progress. So we're going to talk to Ron Harris about this tomorrow. It's going to be out on Wednesday. Drugs and Stuff is out tomorrow. And then Blood, Sweat, and Gear, we're going to be recording that on Wednesday. So that'll be coming out Friday. Sorry if I confused you with all that. All right, guys. Thank you very much for everything. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your positivity. I hope your bodybuilding is going great. And I will see you on the podcast tomorrow with Dave.